Hey YouTube, back here again. This time around we have a 98 Subaru Legacy Outback. However, this time around I have a helper. And he's going to help me try to figure out what we actually have going on with this car. Customers' complaint is every time that they turn on the AC, the headlights, everything else, they hear a whining noise and the lights start to dim. So this one's going to end up being a little bit more, I think, of a teaching session than an actual diagnostic repair. Maybe we'll actually learn something here. Alright, so Rock and I came across this nice little picture here and don't know whose it is, and my apologies ahead of time there if it belongs to somebody out there that does see this. It was just a great or description, I should say, of what we're going to be going for here. So Rock, what is this called?
This is called Ohm's Law.
Okay, can you explain to me a little bit about the picture? I know we tried to go over it a little bit so we can understand.
This is supposed to be Ohm's Law, also known as the resistance. This right here, that's supposed to be the wire. That the voltage is trying to get the amp through the wire or the electrons, and this could also be the alternator.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not into that just yet. Let's just go with this. So we have a volt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And voltage is going to be our pressure, right? He's trying to push in this way. And then we have, let's just say that it could be a pipe, it could be anything at all that we want it to be. This is going to be something here where we're going to try to push things through. In this case here, we're trying to push amperage through. And you're right, it is electrons, definitely. But who's the little guy up on top there, and what's he doing?
That is the resistance. And he is, well, in this picture, he's using his lasso to close up the wires. That way voltage is working harder to get the amp in, and amp can't get in.
Well, that sounds like a pretty darn good description to me. All right, well then let's see what we can do here, and we can see how we can apply this to the car. All right, so we're going to be looking at this car now. We're going to try to figure out what's going on. We think it has something to do with voltage, which is why we are already looking at that little picture there behind you. Yep. So we want to try to figure out what's going on. But to do that, though, you're going to need something. All right? Yeah, well, hold on a second. Just stay right there. Because I went out and I actually picked something up for you here before I did that. And this is yours now, because I kind of feel like you're going to need it. So maybe you can open that up and just show everybody what you got in there. Because I think this is a pretty good beginner's unit.
I have a digital multimeter.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, good, because that one's yours. Yeah, seriously, that's yours.
Please don't let me turn that camera.
Let me get that all set up with you out there and let everybody see.
Okay.
Are you happy with it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're going to put that thing to use. Okay, Rock. So you got it. You got your voltmeter.
Yep.
We're set here on what? DC volts? Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm. That is set on DC volts.
Okay, perfect. And let's see what our actual voltage is at the battery first. So where's go?
Right here.
Black goes to which side?
Black goes to black, and red goes to red.
Okay, and let's say if there were no colors, what would the black side be called?
The black side will be called common ground, and this one will be electricity, I'm fairly sure.
Or positive, right?
Yeah, positive.
That's our positive side, right? And we can always tell because it has a little plus sign up on the top,
and
which we can barely even see in this battery because I see stuff over here. We got stuff growing here.
Ugh.
That might be part of our issue, but I guess we're going to have to find out. So tell me what we got going across there so we know what our battery voltage is that we're starting with.
12.27.
12.27. Okay, so we're going to start taking some notes, right?
Yep.
Because that's why we brought a little pad so we can keep track. And let me just grab you something here to write with. All right. That's going to be our voltage. So our voltage right now with the engine off is?
It is 12.27. I mean 27.
Okay. Looks like I'll have to really zoom in for these viewers in order to see your handwriting because you're writing super duper small. That's okay. All right. So no engine started. Okay. It's at 12.27. All right. So now we're going to start it up and we're going to see with nothing else on inside the car. We're going to try to start it up and we're going to see what we have going at the battery right away. Okay.
All right.
All right, so let me sit there and I'll get in there real quick and I'll reach in and I'll start it up. Get yourself set up over there on the voltmeter.
Okay.
All right, and just make sure you keep your hands free. Oh, let's see if I can reach.
The bottom.
Let's see if I can reach. All right, 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 let's see if I can
I think we might have just found our problem.
Well, I don't know. Let's see. Let's go across there. Hold it real steady so we always get a good reading, nice and straight. 14.1. But I hear that alternator. You hear that noise? That noise. I'm sure the viewers are going to know that too. That's definitely making some noise. Now, the only thing is that there's nothing on inside the car right now. So what I need to do is I'm going to go inside there and I'm going to start turning things on. And let's see what happens to that voltage. I hear the sound change. It's going to be hard to do this and keep the view here, so just bear with me a second. Okay, AC is on. Okay. We have a couple things on, and where are we at here? 13.83. We have our headlights on. We have our AC on. So we see a little bit of a voltage drop there already, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, is that bad boy screaming, huh?
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn something called the voltage drop. This is how we're going to check the difference between one point to the other in order to determine whether or not we have something going on. So this time I want you to take the black and go to the positive. And I'm going to take, so you're here, black on there, and I'm going to take this one. I'm going to go right onto the alternator itself and see what we got.
That is
1.5. You know what that number should be? That number should be almost 0. We're losing 1.5 volts from the alternator.
Holy moly.
Going from the alternator down that cable all the way back over here to our battery. Now, I want you to go here with the black. Okay, we're going to go right in the very center right here. And I'm going to go to the outside here, of the outside of this battery cable. Let's see what we're losing now. Nothing. So even though we have that corrosion there, we're not really losing anything, right? That's what we would like to see. So between here, that tells us that where this, move your hand for 1 second. So you see how this wraps around?
Yeah.
This right here will wrap around the outside of the battery terminal. That means that between here, see where I'm tapping? Here and the outside piece that actually wraps around it, we have no corrosion in the middle, nothing at all that's preventing us without losing any voltage here. Okay? So let's do the same thing now. I want you to go from negative. I want you to take the negative one and put it right in the middle of that centerpiece right there and hold it right there. Keep a little pressure on it so it doesn't slide. And we're going to go over here to the outside casing and you just scratch it up a little bit here so we get it nice and clear. And we'll see.
We have 1.1.
No, it's actually 119 millivolts. See how there's an MV up there in the top right-hand corner?
Yeah,
so that's a little bit different. That means millivolts.
Oh.
So that's a very, very small reading, not a full volt like the other one was. Let's go back over here again one more time. Put that right back in the middle of the positive. We're going to recheck that one more time. See how that MV isn't up there anymore? It's 1.4 volts.
Now it's just regular volts.
That's a big voltage drop when it comes down to a charging system. So we're going to have to start figuring out why. Now I'm going to go over there and we're going to get something and we're going to put this a little bit more together so you'll understand it. Okay, Rock, you ready for cheesy drawing?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So this is what we're going to have over here. We're going to have ourselves a battery, right? And we're going to set up this little battery over here with two little terminals. What are they again?
Positive and negative.
Okay, so let's make this one here positive, and I'm trying to draw this looking through the camera. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I give these people credit. The negative side goes to where?
Negative side goes to the
Or what is it really?
ground.
All right, so that's our ground, right? And what does that look like if I draw it on the
An
diagram?
upside down Christmas tree.
All right,
or
that
a
works.
tornado. Your pick.
All right, I like that. So that's our ground, right? And that's going to go out here to somewhere out on the engine, on our, or I should say out on the engine, out to our body, onto the chassis. That's just going to find some place to ground. Okay, that's going to be our ground to complete our entire circuit going all the way around. This side, though, is the side that we're looking at right now, right? This is where we saw the voltage drop. So this side over here came off as a cable, and it went over here to our alternator, right? So we're going to draw like the ugliest alternator ever, but we're going to try to do this in a way, though, that it'll make sense to people out there.
It kind of looks like
And we're going to make, it does kind of look like a lemon. but I've never been one to really draw. Matter of fact,
Me neither. You and me both, buddy. You and me both.
all right, so that's going over there to our terminal, right? We have this cable over here that looks like a pretty decent sized cable.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Our alternator does what? What's his job in life? I don't know what that noise was.
One, it's not to beep. I can know that for sure.
I have no idea at all what that noise was. Interesting.
Should we pause?
Nope, we're good.
Okay.
Oh, I think that might be your new voltmeter, actually. So we'll turn it off for a second. It might just be warning us that it's going to turn off.
Okay.
All right, so our alternator does what? What is this thing that's wrapped around it right here?
That is... Oh, shoot.
What do you wear to keep your pants on?
Well, pants. Oh, I mean...
A belt? It's okay.
Belt. I cannot
So,
remember.
our alternator is going to sit here and it's going to spin, right?
Yeah.
When he's spinning, what is he doing?
He is putting...
Creating what kind of
He's creating
electricity?
electrons.
Okay, well he's creating electricity, right? He's actually
Which
creating
is then
some kind of...
come through the...
Wait. Let's work our way there. We're teaching at the same time as we're learning.
Yeah.
So this is going to be going on inside here, right? So I guess a easy way to do it is we're really getting a whole bunch of little charged energy or electrons, and we're trying to take it from here to go back over the battery so we can fill the battery up. All right? Because after we start the car, our alternator's job is to sit there and charge back up the battery, and also on that same spot right here, coming up over here, this is going to go inside the car and feed probably, I don't know, hundreds of other little things that are inside
Basically
there.
everything.
Well, not really hundreds, but, it's going to feed other things inside the car. But it all comes back over here, basically to two cables that I see over here on this battery. So when we're trying to push our electrons back into the battery, right, in order to charge that battery back up. So here's what we're doing. We're taking it here, right, and we're using this big piece. We're using this big piece right here, and we're going to sit there and we're going to try to funnel it all the way in through this little tiny wire or tube or however you want to imagine it in your head. And we're going to sit there and we're going to try to fit them through and come back over to here. I have a theory about what's happening here already, and that means that something is already wrong with our tube or with the way it's funneling out. And I think we're going to have to take a look and actually see what's going on there, because from here, if we look at it like voltage, right? If we see our voltage, let's see, we had about 1.5 volt drop, and we were at about, what, 13, what, do you remember?
We're at about 13 point...
Well, let's make it easy. Let's do easy math on here, right? Okay. Let's say it was 13.1 at the battery, right? And we were losing 1.5. So if I add that back on, 1.5. Now these aren't real numbers, obviously, but if we were doing that, right? If we added this back up together, what would our total voltage be? Just add it up there. 1 plus 5 is?
6.
All right. And 13 plus 1 would be?
4. 14.
Or you could do it the other way. 3 plus 1. I mean,
14.
It's just easy enough. 14.6 volts. Right? So that's what we actually have back here at this little terminal on the alternator. All right? So that's what our alternator is trying to push out, and we're seeing just in voltage, but really what's happening is we're actually losing the ability to move those electrons back through here to get back over to our battery in order to charge it back up. So, now, let's see, why is that I don't know what that was on the screen there. So what we're going to be looking for here is we're going to try to find out why this alternator cannot push the voltage back out over to here. And I think one of the first spots we're going to want to look is going to be right up around this area right here.
I believe
Hold on a second there. Right up around this area right over here. Okay? And then we're going to see where we go. So we're going to test it back over here at the battery. I guess we already did that. And then we're going to work our way back over. We're going to look at the top of the alternator and we're going to check it there. All right? Now, if we were losing the ability to push amperage through, right? Matter of fact, I brought over a piece of wire so we can kind of remind ourselves how this works. Want to hold that for me for a second?
Okay.
All right, so let's pretend that this piece of wire is actually our way of sending the energy from going between the alternator all the way back over to the battery, right? Would it be easier to move it through a lot of strands of wire that are here, or would I be able to push more electrons through a whole set of wires that are like this? Let me zoom in a little bit here. Or would it be easier to push a whole lot of electrons through, let's say, just that many? See, if I take those away, it's a lot easier with a lot, right? Because then it kind of works like a doorway inside a busy little house. Let's draw that. So let's say we had 2 rooms, right? 2 rooms here. And we have a doorway. And on the other side of the doorway, we have another room. And we have people, oh, they're all over the place inside this room. Right? Yeah, I know the mosquitoes over here are a little bad, huh? Yeah, just ignore them. Don't worry. Let them eat. Mosquitoes have to eat too. Alright, so we have this room over here, right? And we have a bunch of people inside there. Would it be more efficient to try to get everybody from this one room to go from here to here with one door, or to do it with multiple doors? Which would be multiple doors. So do you think that's why? So do you think that's why people, or with the designers, the engineers, when they made this electrical circuit, I guess they still, when they made this electrical circuit, do you think that's the reason why they put so many different strands of wire in there? So it was easier to sit there and give a place for each one of the electrons to start passing through?
Yes.
Right? Because the skinnier way, if that was like a hallway between the 2 of these, and it was really, really, really tiny, like if we just had one little tiny, yep, I think our marker here is pretty much dead. But if we had a tiny, tiny little way for them to get from one room into the other, that makes it a lot harder. But if I made this whole thing our great big doorway, like this, going all the way through, we could definitely get all the people through here faster, because they could probably go through at least 2 at a time. Well, that's kind of what happens out here too, right? So they're going to use a bigger cable up here on top of the alternator, so that they can get everything kind of moving a little bit more faster, and then we could get our amperage to move a little bit faster, which if we look back there at our picture again, right, that's kind of what we're doing here. We're just picturing in our mind that over here was that room full of all the people, and here's the other room here that we want to get everybody into, and can't fit their way through simply because we have that resistance, which is that little doorway that goes in between. Alright, I think that's a good, somewhat of a good explanation. We're going to have to start moving on to doing some testing. And maybe get a can of off.
Alright.
Yep, we're all set. We're back on. Alright, so we're going to come out here and we're going to do our testing over here, right? Now we're kind of in a rush here because we're going to start losing our light. But we're going to go right here at the top of the alternator, and I think we're just going to come in here and actually start our testing. But you know what? Before we do, let's get that thing loaded up again, and let's see. Resistance does what? If everybody tried to fit our way through that little room, right? If we picture ourselves again, if we looked at this and we pictured it like a little room, right? Let's say that everybody that was in there had to try to fit their way through that one doorway. And let's say that the doorway was covered with sandpaper on either end, but everybody was pushing their way through. What would happen to their shoulders as they're going through?
It will cause heat. Or
in
in this case, friction.
Friction, right? So friction can cause heat. So if we're trying to push a lot of things through something that's very small, we're going to create some heat, right?
Yep.
I like that idea. So I wonder if we start this thing up and we start turning everything on, I wonder if we can use our thermal imager just to play around with and see if we can actually see any heat anywhere at all, that maybe we can find a bad spot in the wire. Want to give it a try?
Okay.
All right, hold on a second then. Let me get this thing started and we'll go from there. Okay, start it up. Turn some loads on. Got the high beams on. We got the thermal imager camera all set. All right, press the power button. Hold it on for 1 second. Gotta hold it on for 1 second. Okay, release. We'll use the snap-on one because that's the easiest one for you to maneuver your way through. Okay, let's start aiming it up here towards the car. All right, and let's go from the area of the top of the battery terminal. Now you're gonna see down here at the bottom, bud, it's gonna say calibrating, okay?
Yeah.
So when we move from a cold towards a hot, you're gonna see a change. It's gonna say calibrating. We have to stay still at that point, okay? And we'll let it calibrate so that way it can find all the temperatures and all the differences. And down there, what's that temperature reading all the way up there?
That is
at the top.
About 136 and 37.
Okay, so now if we move our way over, let's go near the top of that alternator. Remember, we just started this, but we gotta put it out here so we can see it, okay? Let's see what the alternator is.
It's about 300.
No, what's that number up there? At the top left. No, I see what you're looking at. You're looking at the top right. Look at just the top left. That's the number that tells us exactly where we're on.
150 and 100.
Okay, now you see that little target that's there in the middle?
Yeah.
Right up here? Let's point that target right at this area right up over here where we have the top of our alternator. See if we can get up here and try to get our target lined up right there at the very, very center of it.
That is 300.
Oh, wait, it says calibrating, so we gotta wait for it to stop again. Okay, and 300 and what?
356.
That's about what it had, huh?
Yeah.
So that's pretty hot. I don't think we want to put our fingers there. Look at the rest of the alternator though. When you look at that picture, right? And it's like you're looking at it from a distance. What do you see there about that alternator?
I see that it is it is 100.
Kind of glowing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing just looks like it's kind of glowing more than the engine. Let me bring that up higher there just for the viewers for a second. Here, I'll hold it in my hand. All right, so that way everybody out there can see it too. If we're looking over the top of the engine and we look down here, when we're faced with that alternator is running up to 180 degrees already, and there goes our terminal right there. Now, obviously we don't really need that too much on this one, but good for visual. This is where we're having a problem. And we're going to have to address this here and see what we're going to do about it.